Marichka and Taras, the Ukrainian duo wreaking havoc in the arena. Let's talk about the nerf and let's dive straight into it. What up, team? It's your MurderInc here, back with a Reach Out of Legends video, talking about player versus player. Kind of dull to some, but hopefully it spices up in the future. Specifically talking about the two new champions, Taras and Marichka. Now, there have been lots of complaints about these two champions. Too strong, too overpowered, need some tuning. They need to be brought down a little bit. I don't think so. I really don't agree. This is, of course, my opinion. We all have them, but I think it's pretty sound. I think they are just way too new to nerf. First of all, the amount of players that have both of these champions is the smallest percentage ever. So if you have one of them and you're going to suffer from some type of nerf, I don't think it's right. Why? Based on the past. What do I mean by that? There have been many champions that have came out. I mean, we can just name a bunch. Hefrak, we have Georgid, Sifi, Rotos. Of course, Rotos has gotten nerfed many times, but it was after quite some time. Now, after those nerfs happened, there are a couple factors that go into that. First of all, Rotos isn't a void legendary champion, and Plarium does look at how hard it is to get champions. When they do consider nerfs, it's just the way it goes. Void champions are considered the strongest ones in the game. They should be, not all of them are. We know that quite well, but we want to talk about these two here because I think they're too new to touch, personally. Now, this is after seeing how strong they're doing. You're going to see from a defensive tier list video that they're pretty much in on their own in that. But does that mean they are too strong? Once again, I think not, because they are so new, they just haven't been figured out yet. It takes time to figure out how to perfectly counter champions. And one of the big issues here is going to be the partner or passive bonuses both of these champions have. So the first thing to talk about is going to be the A1. If Taras the Fierce is in the same team, they will always be one to join this champion's attack. So every time we get united, we triumph. From Marichka, we have Taras hopping on in with an attack. He does damage, right? So this is very, very strong. Outside of that, Marichka's kit is very good overall. She is one of the top void legendaries in the game for sure. Is there anything wrong with that? No, because there has to be a strongest and there has to be a weakest champion. Again, do I think Plarium does a good job managing the gap between the highest and the lowest? No. We can all name, go ahead in the comments, name the 5 weakest void legendaries, right? They're going to be in their own category of strength from the top 5 void legendaries in the game. So Plarium definitely needs to work on that. But we're specifically talking about the partner bonus between the two because there have been tons, and I mean tons of complaints about these two champions. Nerf them, it makes it unplayable to play against. I just think it's weak and it's way too early to consider that. Now, he's an HP based champion. HP based nukers have been notoriously very, very strong. Remember when Magnar came out, the epic, who could hit as hard as Trunda if you did not have an attack up, and sometimes attack up, especially back then, was hard to add to your team. So now that we have a legendary version that does a ton of damage, and we can go over his partner bonuses specifically that do interact with Marichka. Whenever an enemy attacks Marichka, which is going to be Hero's Intercession. Whenever an enemy attacks Marichka the Unbreakable, attack that enemy using this skill. Attacks one enemy, places a stun for 2 turns, deals double damage to enemies whose attack is equal to or higher than this champion's attack. So is that likely to happen? Yes. Why? Because he's an HP based champion. So there's already tons of damage coming out from this guy. He hits very hard. He hits very often based on the partner bonus, so the strength really is there. He also has a very hard hitting A3 ability, which can do significant damage to the enemy team here. Then of course he has passives here. We'll talk about poise. All incoming damage from skills is reduced by 50%. That's pretty big, right? He's a void legendary once again. I'm not trying to diminish that it's okay he's this strong because he is void, but we just have to take things into perspective here that he's not just some force affinity champion like Harima. She's good. She's definitely not overpowered, but she is good. She's definitely a top tier champion for non-void affinity for sure, but like I was just talking about before, there is going to be a difference between void and non-void legendaries, or at least there should be, and I think they're slowly starting to go more that direction, although the newest fusion, Pythion, was very good. So when attacked, this champion's max HP would be decreased by 25% of the attack's initial damage before the damage reduction. So this is kind of like a trade-off skill, of course, favoring Terras the Fierce much more than the opponent attacking. Then the second bonus we can talk about quickly: when attacked, decreases the enemy's attack by 10% up to 50%, 25 against bosses, occurs once per skill, attack reduction resets after each round. Active effect places a fear on all enemies from orcs, ogren, undead, demon, spawn, faction at the beginning of each round for 1 turn. The debuff cannot be resisted. So we've got a lot going on here for sure. He's a very strong champion, has great synergy with that partner bonus, and has been causing quite an issue for some people. Now, if we want to see this in action here, I spend quite some time trying to find this team. Shout out to SNA Qual here, hopefully I got that name right, who has both of these champions sitting alone. We don't want to kill them too quickly, so let's kind of go for a tanky team just so we can see them in action here. We're going to go full defensive, no real way to win in this. We're just going to try to survive as long as possible, and to do that, who are we going to bring? Let's see. Who are we going to bring to this battle here? You can't counter them with weak affinity for obvious reasons, of course. And do we care about speed too much? Probably not, so let's just increase our HP as much as possible. I don't know how well geared these two champions are, but if they're sitting in plat, granted it is Monday, so a lot of the names we see probably aren't here around Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Not all, but I would definitely gamble and say most names we see now. It's much easier to push high into plat the day after reset, or I guess the day of reset, depending on what your time zone is, rather than the next weekend before the reset. So all of that's fairly common sense for sure. And as far as another tanky champion, can't really think of who to use here. I don't think I have this guy geared right now. I do not. Okay, so he's in no gear, so he's not going to be of any value to me at all. We can throw in a Krisk. I don't know if Krisk is even geared. He looks like he's geared for Hydra. We'll just throw him in here. And I don't want Warlord because I want to see their abilities, so we'll go ahead and just use a double reviver here. We won't put it on auto, so we're just going to see how this goes with the ally attacks and all that good stuff. Maybe this wasn't the greatest idea because it looks like I used a bit too much of a tanky team. We're just going to A1 for now and not use too many. Okay, so there's the first hit there, the second hit there, so they're doing a decent amount of damage. Like I said, I probably went a bit too tanky on this team so I could really see what's going on here. We'll get the ally attack. We're just going to throw this on auto and kind of see how it plays out. Tons of counter attacks going on. The damage is going to ramp once all of these stone skin gears off. Unfortunately, there's a provoke there. So again, I didn't really, I guess, think this through as much. Attack down and not doing anything to a HP based champion. So that's another very strong suit. So his damage is definitely ramping up for sure here. We're going to wake him up. That's good. So he will be outputting more and more damage. And again, I'm not sure how geared this guy's double duo here is going to be. So that's, of course, a main issue for sure here. And the strength that I kind of haven't talked about is we know that Marichka has powerful synergy on her A1, right? So with that being said, if you lock her out with a Warlord, what ability is she using? Her A1, who is then going to join in on the action if she's only using her A1? Mr. Terras here. So we have to keep that in mind, where he's also strong against getting locked out, which is very, very good. So this, I would assume, is going to go on forever here, but you can kind of see, and like I said, I did a terrible job of building this team. I should not have brought so many tanky champions here. If you add 2 more champions into the mix on the team I'm fighting right now, this can definitely be a huge problem. Hopefully the showcase isn't making it seem like they're not strong. Okay, so Duchess is dead, right? Duchess is dead. She has very good damage reduction against AoE, not so much against single target. So with that being said, another great counter source to what's considered to be a very tanky champion, being Duchess, of course. So maybe this team eventually wins. I don't know. If anything, it's going to take way too long, but this is kind of the breakdown of how much damage these guys can do. Granted, I have like the tankiest team ever right now facing them. I have no chance to win. I'm pretty sure this team has no chance. I mean, maybe with the destroyed max HP, they will eventually lose, but let's be honest, we're probably not going to be... Okay, so I forgot she restores the destroyed HP, so this is probably just going to go on forever, and we're not waiting around for that. So TLDR, the basic point of this video and what I kind of want to describe here is when new champions come out, if you get them first and they are above average, which these two are way above average for sure, it's going to be quite common for people to complain about them, saying they're broken, they're overpowered. We've seen it many times. Tormund is another fantastic example of someone that was considered stupidly broken and overpowered if you did not fuse him. If you played back then, you know for sure he was the first champion that really forced immunity gear onto like anybody, and nobody had immunity gear. No one was really running champions that had block debuffs, so you were putting in a Tormund on defense or on offense and you were just steamrolling your opponent. Granted, they did adjust Tormund because he was, I'm pretty sure they waited a while. Someone can correct me if they remember, but I do believe they waited quite some time to put together any forms of nerf for Tormund, but he was the same exact thing as this duo here. He completely changed and shook things up, but in the end, he was countered by, to an extent, an immunity gear set that had to be farmed, had to be figured out what was the best way to go about it, and even then, immunity gear would run off. And we know Tormund has the passive where once he dies, he comes back frozen, and then if you can't kill him while he's frozen, what happens to you? You start getting chain frozen again, casting buffs, so he was definitely a pain when he first came out. He was considered extremely overpowered. He ruined the arena according to many people, and then we figured out how to counter it. So it took a while, it was not overnight. I do believe the same thing's going to happen here because there's never been a champion or a set of champions that have been released into the game that we haven't figured out a counter for. It's just never happened. Am I saying it's impossible to happen, that it never could happen? Absolutely not. Anything can happen, right? Can these two remain the top tier? I don't think it's likely. That's kind of what I was getting at, but it's definitely quite possible here. So we're now 5 minutes into this. We're just going to go ahead and, do we win here? Let's just take a look real quick. If we can get a fear off, maybe. Okay, now he's back alive. I'm pretty sure after he dies, it's over. So another very strong part of the partner bonus here. This is more so just Marichka's kit. However, having him as the one that gets revived with her, this isn't really to take away from the duo here, but if you had 3 other champions besides Terrace getting revived from that ability and passive on Marichka, it would be considered strong. But if you go and look at the champion and what they can do in tandem, they complement each other so well. So as we can see here from the passive that we were just talking about, revives all dead allies with 50% HP, 75% turn rate whenever this champion's killed, places block damage on all allies for 1 turn whenever an ally receives bomb, poison, HP burn. Really strong. No doubt about it. Has nothing to do with Terrace, but when he's on the same team and this is applied to him, we can clearly see how strong of a duo this is, especially if there is another reviver on the team to bring Marichka back alive to continue the passive trade-off between both of these champions. So what am I talking about? Why am I even making this video? Do most players care about this? Probably not, but I've just seen the loud minority of players kind of kicking and screaming about these two champions, saying, GG, game's dead, these guys have taken over Platinum. And like I already have kind of mentioned a little bit, the amount of players in Platinum now, we're probably going to see quite different names than we would see the day before reset or on reset day. So just kind of quickly scrolling through, we see Terrace here. There's going to be some Marichkas for sure. There's the first Marichka unless I missed one. But as far as the duo goes, it's going to be such low probability to see both of them. There's Marichka again. There's a duo here. Moving on. There's Terrace. And that's kind of the gist of things. Terrace again. So once again, top teams probably haven't pushed yet because the reset did just happen. As we can see, 6 days and 13 hours until the next one. But there are players who have them, and the ones who do have them, they are kind of viewed as, oh, it's just unbeatable. We can't beat them, they're overpowered, nerf them. Rushing too early to a nerf is not the way to go. I think Plarium understands this, but they're kind of in this loop of taking feedback, and I hope they don't take this feedback as in my personal opinion. Like I said already, it's wrong. Now you guys give me your feedback as well. I will stand by that. I think most of you don't care. You know how strong they are if you've seen them or if you've read their kits or watched someone else talk about their kits, but it's not really affecting you wherever you are in the game. For the handful of people that are getting steamrolled by this duo, get good, right? Kind of like the old, I guess, GIF that someone made when I made a video a long time ago. Simply get good. Figure out a way to counter them, build your champions. We have Ascension now, you can build those crazy stupid stats in your team. Figure out a way to farm these guys in 30 seconds. I've already seen people beat teams of theirs in 30 seconds, 35 seconds, 40 seconds, which I guess can be considered kind of slow when you're pushing on reset, but are they unbeatable? Are they like the strongest things to ever hit the game? I don't know, debatable. Are they impossible to counter? Absolutely not. And I do look forward to seeing whoever, whether it's someone in my clan or any of the other top arena clans in this game, what the best counter to these champions are going to end up being for the eventual, which has pretty much always happened regardless of what the comp is. Someone will find a way to farm them in 30 seconds or less, if they aren't already. So that's going to conclude this video. Give me your thoughts and feedback on these two champions. Are you mad? Let me know. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I will see you all in the next upload.